from March the 9th to order. First thing on our agenda is a hearing on House Bill 2568. We will open the hearing and we will ask Eileen to give us a bill overview.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee. House Bill 2568 makes amendments to the Kansas Mortgage Business Act. It makes amendments to allow mortgage business work at remote locations, amends the licensure, registration, renewal, and reinstatement procedures, amends surety bond requirements and evidence of solvency and net worth. The bill was passed by the House Committee of the Whole on a vote of 118 to 3 on February 23rd of this year and referred to this committee on March 1st. Section 1 of the bill amends KSA 9-2201, which is the definitions section of the Mortgage Business Act. It deletes the definitions for application and bona fide office and adds new definitions for mortgage loan application and remote location, and changes the definition of branch office, mortgage company, and principal place of business. Section 2 amends KSA 9-2203 to allow mortgage business to be conducted at a remote location under certain conditions. You have those listed in your brief. I'm not going to enumerate them here, but they're listed on page 4, line 33 of the bill through page 5, line 11. Section 3 amends KSA 9-2204 to remove the requirement that a mortgage company submit separate applications for the company's principal place of business and each branch office, and instead have the mortgage company submit only one application. Section 4 amends KSA 9-2205 to adjust the license and registration expiration, renewal, or reinstatement requirements and dates. Each license and registration shall expire on December 31st of each year. A license shall be renewed by filing with the commissioner a complete renewal application and non-refundable renewal fee by December 1st. Applications received after December 1st that are incomplete as of that date may be assessed a late fee. An expired license may be reinstated through the last day of February by filing a reinstatement application and paying the appropriate application and late fees. The commissioner may designate late fees for consumer education to be expended for such purpose as directed by the commissioner. Section 5 amends KSA 2208 to remove the requirement that each licensed location make available evidence of licensure to consumers and the general public. Section 6 amends KSA 9-2211 to require each applicant or licensee to file a $100,000 surety bond with the commissioner instead of current law of a $50,000 bond for licensees who maintain a bona fide office and a $100,000 bond for licensees that do not maintain a bona fide office. This section also requires applicants or licensees to submit evidence that they are solvent and shall at all times maintain a positive net worth. This section deletes the current requirement that evidence of net worth be accompanied by a written statement by an independent CPA that the balance sheet or financial statement has been reviewed in accordance with GAAP. Section 7 amends KSA 9-2215 to require a licensee to provide written notice to the commissioner when adding or closing a branch office. The bill would become effective upon its publication in the statute book. And Mr. Chair, I can stand for questions.
Thank you, Eileen. Committee, are there questions? I see none. We will now turn our attention to proponent testimony. We have Jim Payne with the Office of the State Banking Commissioner. Welcome, Jim.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for having me here today. I'm Jim Payne. I'm the Assistant Deputy and Director of Examinations for the Office of the State Bank Commissioner, and work on the Consumer and Mortgage Lending Division. So we oversee non-bank mortgage companies, consumer credit lenders, and money transmitters. And today with me, I also have Deputy Commissioner Mike Gensbrenner and a staff attorney, Matt Schoger. And I'm happy to speak as a proponent of the bill 2568. The bill amends the Kansas Mortgage Business Act, the law governing all the mortgage business in the state, from companies located both within Kansas and nationwide. Companies are required to hold at times multiple licenses and/or registrations, including a main company license, a branch license, and an individual mortgage loan originator registration if they do originate loans. The commissioner exercises regulatory authority through the main license and each of the registrations to ensure the act is followed and the mortgage business is proper. The bill amends the KMBA to remove the requirement to hold separate overlapping branch licenses and allowing the mortgage company staff to work remotely. If the bill will pass, the company would hold a main master license, and then if they originate loans, it would also hold individual mortgage loan originator registrations still. During the COVID pandemic and continuing today, the mortgage industry has navigated many obstacles with complying with state and federal law during the pandemic. We had restrictions on travel and in-office work in multiple states and jurisdictions, counties, so forth. And when business was not being able to be conducted remotely, it was a no-win situation for both sides, consumers and the company. The states, including Kansas, worked very closely together to navigate through the pandemic and allow remote work where it was possible, and to keep the statute provisions followed and consumers safe. And this allowed the business to continue on the non-bank side for mortgage, and it continues that way to this day. This bill aims to codify the written guidance that was issued by the agency during this time and has been followed by the companies and consumers doing mortgage business. In connection with remote work, the bill will amend the KMBA to, as Eileen mentioned, solidify some of the licensing requirements and things that we use in the nationwide multi-state licensing system, and to firm up the surety bonding requirements so that we have one even requirement regardless of whether there's a branch licenses involved, and to also allow reinstatement after the expiration of a license. So beyond the pandemic, it was clear that we needed to streamline our policy and create a more versatile and efficient mortgage industry. Branch licensing rules that we've had on the books, largely unchanged for over 2 decades, didn't really accommodate industry-wide shifts to remote and online brokering and lending. Since the KMBA requires all companies to license and licensees to abide by its provisions, the main license alone is sufficient to provide the OSBC with the licensing structure necessary to carry out its responsibilities. So removing the branch licensure for each location will turn into a registration of sorts where the company will just tell the office where it's located, and the business will be done via the main company license with any Kansas consumers. We did work with several industry stakeholders in drafting the bill cooperatively, and that was a good process. We considered fiscal impacts of losing branch license fees, and we plan to rework our fee structure to keep a neutral impact on fees, which the industry members have fully supported. Our aim is fewer duplicative forms and applications, and to streamline the mortgage licensing process moving forward. So I appreciate the opportunity to testify today, and I'll stand for any questions at the appropriate time.
Jim, thank you. Committee, are there questions? Senator Gossage.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being here. I just had a quick question, and that is, how is it that they are providing, or that the entities would be providing evidence that they're solvent, but we're taking away the independent CPA balance sheet?
Yes, the commissioner has the latitude. It says at the commissioner's satisfaction. So the office has the latitude of requiring a CPA audit if necessary. And we will base that on risk and size of the entity. This act covers very large companies and very small brokers and independent contractors that just process mortgage loans. There's a very wide array, and some of the very smallest don't currently get a CPA audited statement, and that works today if they have an office in the state or get a higher bond. So the idea would be everyone would get a higher bond now at 100,000, and we would give the commissioner the flexibility to decide whether a CPA statement is necessary.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your presentation. I notice on the fiscal note that we'll be losing $400,000. Is that something that you feel like that the bank commissioner's office is still going to have enough funds to cover your due diligence that you need to do?
Yes, so we do have that $402,300 revenue loss that's shown in the fiscal note as a direct impact of this bill. And to even that out, we are going to we have increased the mortgage loan originator registration fee. So this is the fee for the individuals that are originating mortgages. It's gone from $50 to $100, and that's done through a regulation change. And so that would bring in, it's estimated to bring in somewhere in the neighborhood of $450,000. So it'll be a possible net of 40-some thousand if we had an estimated 9,140 loan originators renewing for 2023. And so it's hard to predict. This is a volatile industry. Sometimes we get more or less, but even a 10% drop off of loan originators for 2023 would still net about $400,000 with the fee change from 50 to 100.
Mr. Chairman, I got one more question.
Right ahead.
Thank you. I was wondering too, when you raised the 50 to 100 on the bonding, is that, have we had very many claims on bonds, or how do you decide the 100,000 is enough, you know?
We were guided by current statute where it's 100,000 now if you do not have a bona fide office in state. So many of the out-of-state companies that are headquartered elsewhere and don't have a location in Kansas have the $100,000 bond now. And as far as claims that we make on a bond, we generally don't have to make a bond claim unless there is a fine or a penalty imposed for violating the act and the company refuses to pay. The bond will pay the fine and or restitution to consumers as a part of an examination or an order that's issued and unpaid. So again, most companies already have the $100,000 bond or more. And so we went to the 100,000 figure from that.
Senator Gossage, did you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is, and forgive my ignorance, but I thought in the fiscal note, if it's in parentheses, that meant it was saving the state dollars. I didn't look at that as a revenue decline. I'm trying to understand what I'm looking at here.
The fiscal note shows, the parentheses shows that as a decrease in revenue.
A decrease in revenue.
To the agency.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Dietrich?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can we go back to that mortgage origination fee increase from $50 to $100? Is that passed on to the buyer or the seller? I mean, who's paying that fee?
The company pays the fee.
Do they then charge it on their closing statement?
No.
No? Thank you. That was a good answer.
Additional questions? I see none. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, thank you.
We will now turn our attention to Luke Bell with Zillow Group, who is with us via WebEx, I believe. Morning, Luke.
Morning, can you hear me?
You can.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you for having me. Even though I live in Kansas City, unfortunately, I'd already booked a trip to Michigan. So I am up in Lansing, Michigan today, so I had to testify remotely. I apologize for that. But happy to be in front of the committee. Wanted to express our support for the bill. I represent Zillow, which is the online real estate technology company. As part of what we do, we have Zillow Home Loans, which is a mortgage lending company, which is actually headquartered in Overland Park, Kansas. We have an office at 435 in Row in Overland Park. We have about 55 licensed mortgage loan originators in the state of Kansas who work in the vicinity of that office, along with 230 other support employees that are registered to that office as well. As a starting point, I just wanted to thank the Office of the State Bank Commissioner. Just like the rest of you in your chosen professions, this has been a very interesting 3 years. that we have went through. It has not been easy. In March of 2020, when all these shutdown orders and work from home orders started to happen, obviously you can guess it was quite a problem for us, considering that the statute required people who originate mortgage loans to work from a licensed branch location. So thankfully, the regulators stepped in and provided us with the flexibility necessary so our people could keep working. The mortgage lending industry stepped up to the challenge during the pandemic, and millions of middle-class American families were able to either buy their home or refinance their home. And thankfully, they got to take advantage of some of the lowest mortgage interest rates in history. This would not have been available to them had we not had the flexibility to allow our licensed personnel to work remotely during the pandemic. Now that we are coming out of the pandemic, I think we have all learned that it is both possible and sometimes even advantageous to allow or to continue to allow our employees to continue to work remotely. We have developed consumer protection and regulatory safeguards. There are security procedures in place working with the regulators that we believe not only are our employees more productive, they are also continuing to provide the same level of customer service and protecting consumers in the same way they did when they worked in a licensed branch location. So as you can see in 2568, there are all sorts of security safeguards put in place to protect client information. I am very familiar with these safeguards. We have a very large mortgage compliance team that works here at Zillow Home Loans that works with the regulators to implement these safeguards and audit those safeguards. I'm subject to the same security requirements. I also work remotely out of my home in the Kansas City area. We are required to use a VPN to log into company resources. We are not allowed to print company documents on a printer. We are not allowed to install unauthorized programs. We're not allowed to connect USB drives to our company-issued computers. All of these safeguards are in place to protect confidential private client information. Those same safeguards are built into the statute and will be enforced going forward for those who work remotely. And I just wanted to close out by saying, not only is this, of course, good for regulatory flexibility, but we think long-term it's good for, frankly, Kansas consumers and Kansas employees. Going forward, or in the past, actually, if you wanted to work for a company like Zillow Home Loans, you had to live within a commutable distance of our Overland Park office because you were required to do all of your work within the confines of that office. Going forward, this opens up employment opportunities no matter where you live. So you live in Emporia, Pittsburgh, or my hometown of Medicine Lodge, Kansas, and way in the middle of nowhere in South Central Kansas. If you've got a good broadband internet connection and you have experience and aptitude in the mortgage lending industry, this opens up employment opportunities for you, no matter where you live. Our employees want to work remotely. As coming out of this pandemic, we've worked with our employees. We've asked them what they want to do. And the overwhelming majority of them want the flexibility to continue to work remotely. So we are in favor of giving that to them. And we appreciate the Office of the State Bank Commissioner and the Legislature for considering this bill, which would allow us to do that. So thank you for your consideration of the bill. We appreciate it. And I'm happy to answer any questions the committee might have.
Luke, thank you very much. Committee, are there questions of Luke? I see none. Thank you very much. Enjoy your time in Michigan.
Thank you.
We will now turn our attention to Kobe Pruitt, who is with Mortgage Bankers Association, also via WebEx.
Can you hear me?
Morning, Kobe.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, committee, for having me today. My name is Kobe Pruitt. I'm the Director of State Government Affairs at the Mortgage Bankers Association. And wanted to come on today and express our support for HB 2568. We really do appreciate the opportunity to provide testimony today on a policy priority that's, really high on our list for members and for our members in the industry, especially those in Kansas. We really also want to thank the Kansas Office of State Bank Commissioner Jim Payne for all their work in proposing, in this legislation proposed. We're really happy about it because it's consistent with the NBA model that we've put out regarding remote work, as well as 14 other states that have enacted or passed some type of law or regulation that will permit a licensing flexibility for MLOs to work away from the licensed branch. I also want to take a moment to just really thank, Kansas policymakers for all of their leadership during the COVID-19 pandemic. You've put out guidance, as well as other types of no action documents that allowed our companies and LOs to remain safe during the pandemic, and making sure that we could also serve our consumers properly and making sure that they're safe as well, and then providing them forbearance and other types of products that keeps people in their homes during those troubling times. I think we're towards the end of the pandemic. I think we're getting a little more normal. It's not yet over, obviously. We still want to make sure we have these licensing flexibilities to make sure people can be safe and healthy, as we're opening up, and being able to work away from the licensed branch is definitely helpful for members of our industry. And HB 2568 really does provide a lot of those health and safety provisions that allows people to be safe, as we're opening up and getting back to normal. But I really want to say that, this bill, allows for us to apply a lot of the things that we learned from the pandemic to a post-pandemic economy. And this bill really represents that opportunity to apply those lessons, and it really allows us to plan for future uncertainties, either that be natural disasters, regional emergencies, and allows for LOs to still serve consumers, and not having to be tied to a licensed location. It also allows LOs to serve those in rural committees and traditionally underserved committees a lot better, because it provides an opportunity to meet the consumer where they are, and not requiring an LO to travel maybe many miles to a licensed branch, which may be costly for them, or in some cases an impossibility if, say, they have disabilities. So this legislation provides a lot of great things for the industry. We provide our full support in the passage of HB 2568, and we look forward to working with the committee to have it passed. If you have any questions from MBA regarding that or anything like that, please let us know. But thank you for having me today.
Kobe, thank you very much. Committee, are there questions? I see none. Thank you very much. We will now turn our attention to Michael Stedman with Rocket Mortgage via WebEx also.
Morning. Can everyone hear me?
We can.
Like Luke, I'm also calling from Michigan, where we're based here in Detroit downtown. So again, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Again, my name is Michael Stidham. I am the Director of Regulatory Affairs for Rocket Mortgage. Rocket Mortgage appreciates the opportunity this morning to offer testimony in support of the proposed amendments to the Kansas Mortgage Business Act, which would eliminate the need for a mortgage company to apply for a separate license for each branch location and allow its staff to work remotely. Rocket Mortgage is a Detroit-based national home mortgage lender who enables the American dream of homeownership and financial freedom through its obsession with an industry-leading digital-driven client experience. In 2021, Rocket Mortgage closed $351 billion of mortgage volume across all 50 states. Today, Rocket Mortgage and Rocket Companies employ 26,000 full-time team members nationwide. Rocket Companies, which is Rocket Mortgage's parent company, ranks 5th on the Fortune's list of the 100 best companies to work for in 2021 and is placed in the top third of that list for 18 consecutive years. Today, Rocket Mortgage maintains and renews 105 licensed branch locations within the state of Kansas. With this bill, significant improvements will be made to the licensing requirements regulated by the Office of the State Bank Commissioner. The removal of these the removal of separate branch licenses provide a more efficient process for mortgage companies like Rocket Mortgage to conduct business in Kansas while maintaining OSBC's integral regulatory oversight of mortgage companies. By requiring the mortgage company to hold one master license as opposed to several individual branch licenses, the bill streamlines the licensing process to promote versatility and efficiency in the mortgage business. Ultimately, by removing this cost, mortgage companies, our industry, can pass these savings on to Kansas consumers. In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, many states, along with Kansas, responded with forward-thinking innovation to help mortgage companies continue to provide important financial services to consumers by removing the restrictions to allow remote work. Today, with guidance from OSBC, Rocket Mortgage was able to continue to provide essential financial services to its Kansas consumers while keeping its employees safe. This bill codifies the written guidance, making remote work a permanent option while maintaining standards and expectations around consumer safety and data security. In sum, we appreciate the committee's leadership on this matter. And with this bill, Kansas will help lead the industry in streamlining mortgage licensing by removing the individual branch license requirements and making the ability to work remotely permanent. If you have any questions now, I would love to field them. Thank you.
Michael, thank you for your testimony. Committee, are there questions? I see none. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you all.
Is there anyone else who would like to testify as a proponent to the bill? Is there any opponent testimony to the bill? Anyone wishing to testify neutral? We will then close the hearing on House Bill 2568. Committee, that completes our work for today. Tomorrow, I will warn you, we do have House Bill 2110. Transportation has told me they may go a little bit long because they have a big hearing tomorrow. It appears our hearing will also be big tomorrow. So if you can be here and ready to go as soon as transportation's done, we'll try to get started. I think we have a lot of conferees and a lot of pages of testimony, right? So, okay. With that, we are adjourned.